Hello, everyone, and welcome to another NintendoFuse Game Chat. Today, we're talking all about Beyond the Ice Palace 2 for the Nintendo Switch. Now, Beyond the Ice Palace 2 is a sequel to Beyond the Ice Palace, which came out all the way back in 1988 for the Amiga, the Atari ST, the Commodore 64, the ZX Spectrum, the Amstrad, CPC. We're talking old school. It was a 2D scrolling platformer similar to Ghosts and Goblins. So why bring it back? But they did. P-Cube published this game. It did come out March 11th, 2025. And full disclosure, they did provide us review codes. So thank you very much for that. Now, Beyond the Ice Palace 2 is a Metroidvania sort of game, 2D side scrolling action. There's upgrades, there's skill trees, there's difficult bosses, there's interesting terrain, there's different power-ups you can get to allow you to go back. There is a fast travel system between like save points, but that's the way to get back. You could try to run back if you want. It's a little bit longer, but really interesting 16-bit style, pixel graphics, beautiful art style as well. But Greg, let's go to you. What was your take on Beyond the Ice Palace 2?
I did rather enjoy the introduction into the game, so it kind of like you don't really need to have any of the backstory from like the first game. It lays that out like you're like that. There's this sacred arrow that gets shot out, and then like it pretty much has to hit our main protagonist here, and then essentially it just gives him like good powers to like rule and keep the kingdom all intact and everything. And then eventually, at some point, one of the palace pages wants to have that power for themselves or for another entity that you don't know about at the time, and then essentially that he is then defeated into a battle. So then he essentially dies, and then some of his loyal followers then help get him actually like partially like resurrected, and then he needs to kind of get all of his powers back of the different strengths and stuff that he has. So I thought that was a super engaging kind of story and like a nice prologue that kind of dives down into the details, and then like the very first like segments, it kind of teaches you the basic controls. Like you can jump, you can use your whip to attack different like light things, similar to the NES versions of Castlevania. You can knock those down, get some treasures and other miscellaneous items and stuff that can drop from that, and then even some very simplistic combat, taking down like enemies. And then you get to the first like save point, and it's like a little like flame kind of throne thing, and then you get to use that as a point going forward. And then the game does really take a I thought it had took a pretty big spike in difficulty at that point because I went back to that point several times because I ended up having to skip one of the optional bosses because I wasn't able to take them down. So I was almost ready to kind of throw in the towel just because like they didn't have a save point closer to the optional boss where you like learn like the shield bashing technique or whatever, or the perfect shield. And anyone that knows that didn't really quite master that in Breath of the Wild kind of game either. So I'm very bad at perfect shielding, and then like that even though the boss didn't do tons and tons of damage, it still took me down like several times. And I was like, all right, well, I guess I'm not getting whatever kind of treasure he's guarding. Hopefully, it's nothing absolutely required or anything like that. But thankfully, I haven't run into that at this point. So that aside, it did let me continue on, and then I did make it to the next like save point. And then at that point, I've already found a number of the different crystals that you can use to upgrade your skill tree. So the next thing I kind of had issue with is it doesn't exactly tell you what the skill tree items actually do. So obviously it does say like physical and like vital and other things like that, but it doesn't say like, oh, your health bar will increase, or oh, your special weapon power will like increase. So like, it doesn't tell you anything about what you're actually increasing. It just says here, spend your crystals here, and you can have to spend at least like 2 or 3 of the crowns just to get the actual upgrade to apply. So like you can find all these special stones and little secret off the beaten path, or taking down some optional things, or finding like keys into like little mini dungeons and all sorts of different areas and stuff. And I had found quite a number of the stones, and you don't really get to beat the alchemist to actually forge the crown thing to do it for a little while later. So that skill tree thing is definitely very interesting. I just kind of wish it would actually kind of tell you what the each upgrade does, because that might prioritize like, hey, I really wish my whip was stronger. I should increase the power or whatever attribute that affected, or hey, I may actually want it to go a little bit longer and increase the range. I mean, I haven't increased the range yet, but I imagine that's probably what it does. But I don't even know by how much even it would be, because it doesn't really give any indication on what it actually does. It just says the name and just here spend this number of crystals here. So um, that part's kind of frustrating to deal with in the upgrade system there. Um, a lot of the enemies are pretty well placed where you can easily take them down with like a several like whip attacks, and but then it is also another confusing aspect is some of the enemies actually can revive up after like a period of time, but other enemies do not. And even like it seems like some of the same monsters like you're fighting, and then some of them will be defeated after whatever the number of hits it takes to take them down, but then other versions of them will just turn into a pile of bones and they'll resurrect back up and then immediately start attacking you again. So I just have an instance where I was about to do the special move to destroy it after it was a pile of bones, and it was right upon the time that they spawned back up. So like that move didn't actually work, and I got hurt from that specific instance. So like that's also kind of frustrating to take free damage. And healing was kind of like very hit or miss. So I didn't really find any major healing items that you store in like an inventory, but occasionally there'll be like little meat things that fall from the things that you destroy. It seemed like it was those were kind of like far and in between where you didn't really get a lot of chances to do it. But I did do the fun Ninja Turtles cheat code where you can go inside the dungeon where they're like the little mini dungeon with the key, and then there is like a lantern usually right on the inside, and then it did have like a health redrop. So you just basically leave the little mansion, go back inside, collect the health, go back outside, and then until you were like back at max health. So thankfully, I realized had the foresight to like say, hey, I wonder if this actually respawns, because like I was spending a lot of time going back to the save point, and then like it's kind of frustrating. You have to repeat the segments of the game like over and over and over again. So um, once like that stuff was through, I did get through like the first. I think it was at least two or three bosses at this point now, but the bosses have like the major health bar, and there's like little there's weak points and patterns to kind of memorize. And even the first boss was slightly kind of difficult because like it would knock up a bunch of rocks, and it seemed like those were very RNG based, because I thought like, hey, maybe if I'm far away it won't hit me. Nope, the rocks can shoot all the way across the screen and feel like they have like a homing target on your back and immediately like try to hit you. So it's like you can attack the rocks, but sometimes it's kind of hard because the whip only has so much vertical range where you can't really get exactly the ones that are going to be targeting you at that specific time. But so like some of like the dodging and mechanics is kind of rough at that point as well too. But um, overall, the gameplay seemed like it was pretty nice, and I did like the little bit of story, and there are like NPCs to find along the way that kind of also further expand on the story that are completely optional to find. But yeah, it was a pretty solid experience outside of like the few kind of issues like with the upgrade skill tree, and also the what felt like the save points were kind of far apart and sparse for trying to save at neatly times like right before like optional bosses and some optional content.
Yeah, so like for like the rocks and stuff, I don't know if you ever pushed X, but you'll spin your whip in like a circle and it's like a shield and it will block all that stuff and destroy those rocks for you. So you can kind of just do that. It takes stamina, but you can do that and hide behind it. Um,
Yeah.
that
I
helps with
use
a
yeah
lot of.
I'd used that on like the later bosses. I didn't really realize it at that first one though. That was kind of painful because it was like I was trying to figure out exactly when the timing was to be away from it. But definitely on the second like crab boss, like with the little ship on it, was I did recognize like, hey, this guy's like making it rain like thousands of missiles, and had the remember the trainings. I think there was even like a second optional area right before that that kind of reminded you like, hey, have you tried using this like shield technique or whatever to or like use like hold down the button to make it a little like protective barrier around yourself.
Yeah, they do. I think they did a good job at teaching you. There's a lot of mechanics. The skill tree, I can see that. It took me a second to realize Like I put one in health, and I'm like, well, I didn't notice anything. I had to get to like the checkpoint on the tree for it to take effect. I thought that was an interesting way of doing it. So you really couldn't just, oh, I got a crystal, new health. It's like, no, I need 3 crystals. But they're plentiful. I don't know if there's enough to fully upgrade all 5 trees, but I was focusing on like the health, stamina, and the damage I was doing, and I was getting through the game no problem. There are some really interesting parts, like you mentioned the save points. Um, there are times where I was like, "Oh, please be a save point next screen. Please be a save point next screen." And there were plenty of save points I got barely like crawled to with my health. But once you get there, it's like, "Oh, checkpoint, full health, we're good." I did the same technique as in between when I found like food near a zone. I would get it, leave. Do I use that as well. There's some gauntlets in this game. Like there's one area where it's like all lava and it's like gets dark and there's like you have limited sight and you got to do like chain whips and go around and ride platforms in the lava. And I was like, I was glad to be done with it, but afterwards I was like, that was still a really cool section. The set pieces I thought are really really neat. Even and the bosses are very creative design. Like you mentioned, the crab boss is a really cool design. How it's just in the ship and it pops out. Um, there's definitely a learning curve, and it's one of those games where when you get to a boss and you just go, I'm gonna go right at it, guns blazing, attack, tack, 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 you will lose, and you will probably not have much fun with the game. The bosses do require you to stop, retreat, let them do their attack, go in, hit it once, back out again. So um, I didn't mind that. I liked that. I liked that there was a bit of a challenge on the bosses. I never felt overwhelmed. I felt a lot of times if I died, it was my fault. My biggest gripe with the game, however, is ledge grabs. So in most games, if you jump and miss a ledge, it just auto will ledge grab. And this game doesn't work that way. And it took me a while to figure out how this game works. And the way it works is you have to hold left or right in the direction of the ledge you want to grab. So if you jump up and to the left to grab a ledge and you are not going to grab it, you have to hold left, not up and left, left, like just a little straight horizontal, and it will grab. And most games, just holding up and left will be enough. You'll auto grab it. And I kept missing, and I kept getting frustrating. And that's how you do it. You have to hold left or right. And once I figured that out, it was like I had to retrain my brain a little bit, and it worked well. I do wish that there was an update to make it so diagonal worked as well, or at least it was a little bit more forgiving. But minor gripe. The enemies, I like the fact that like the skeleton enemies, you had to stomp, you had to push R and stomp them. That they got back up. It kind of in the frustrating or the frantic, not really frustrating, but the frantic moments, it added that extra level of I gotta get them, I gotta get them. And do I take the time to stomp them quickly, or now that I have them down, do I just back out and reassess the situation? Uh, there were some enemies that like the first time I encountered, I was like, no, this thing's gonna kill me. I'm running away. And then by the end of it, it's like, oh, one of you, no big deal. So I liked that it eased me in. Uh, the game never felt like I never felt lost. Even the backtracking when you open the map, like it has an arrow and it's like go here. So I appreciated that greatly. So the backtracking was significantly easier. I just had a great time with the game. I loved, like you mentioned, the story. I thought was really intriguing. It hooked me right away. I liked when you find the four that betray, and you get the fragments of the arrow back. How like they explain like some of them are like, I do it again. I didn't like your rule, and others are like, I'm so sorry. I made a mistake. And I thought that was cool. Like even the villains had remorse, and they're like, we realized what we did was wrong, and I like that. I like that it wasn't everyone was 100% united, and how each of them did, like one of them like locked themselves away because they're like, oh, I did terrible things, I'm locking myself away, which makes it harder to get to them. But then they're like, thank you for ending this punishment that I had for what I did to you. And others are like, no, I'm boastful, I'm powerful, I'm ruling this land and I'm killing it, but I don't care because I got the power. Um, it made everyone feel different. Any final thoughts for you, Greg, before we go into purchase or not?
Yeah, I think in terms of the ledge grab thing, I did have issues with that, but I always like just use like the attack button, and then he automatically grabbed it. So like that's how I always was trying to grab it. I wasn't even trying to push directions. Like if I just was jumping like near along the wall, I just hit the attack button. Then like after the that animation completes, then he actually grabs the wall. I don't know if it was by design or some type of accident on the way that the sprites move around, but that was kind of like how I at least like started some of the. Like I know sometimes it's like a back and forth, and that one actually worked at that point when I was at least using like the directional at that point. But at least to start it, like to hit the button, made it use like a nice way to do that. And then it did make some sections trickier, like for the vertical ones to like try to like aim it up because you do like a little boost and it kind of launches you above the little hook thing. And then those were kind of trickier to do. And I feel like it was even kind of tricky to attack again to grab the next hook above it to just do like the little grappling sections. But um, yeah, that was like at least the main thing with the ledge grabs, but I definitely liked all the different secrets they kind of added in along the way. There's like little like areas that you can actually go back to once you have the special abilities. Um, the fast travel thing did take me a little bit back because like the very first opportunity you have to do so when you unlock the alchemist, like it takes you to the little hut thing, and then I couldn't even figure out how to get back to like where I was. So then I basically had to go all the way back and then walk all the way back into the castle to like go all the way forward again. So I didn't realize it was like a separate throne like in the room that didn't take you back to the capital. There was you actually used the actual upgrade throne itself to, and it actually reopens up the map. So that was kind of confusing with the alchemist area having both thrones like right, or at least a teleporter to the capital and then throne right beside it, because like it makes it seem like you just came in through the teleporter, but it actually came in through the throne. So then, like, therefore, I thought I was like, hey, I came in through this teleporter, but it's not teleporting me back to where I just was. So that was kind of a little learning curve thing to learn there as well. But um, yeah, I think that was my main things just to add on to what you were saying and what I just kind of thought of here in the moment.
Yeah, no, you're right. Yeah, that took me for a loop. So there's a teleporter and the throne in the Alchemist, and the teleporter will take you to the last teleporter you used. The throne will let you teleport to any of the other thrones. So if you found a teleporter to the Alchemist and you used it, that's what you want to use to get back. You can't fast travel to a teleporter though, so that kind of sucked. But I agree. There was a little bit of confusion as well, but once you figured it out, it wasn't too bad. The game is available right now on the Switch. It is 19.99 digitally. It is also available physically, which you can get at all retailers. The I think it's 30, but yeah, it's $30 physically. So, Greg, would you recommend the game $30 physical, $20 digital, wait for a sale, or pass entirely? What do you think?
So I was kind of like trying to where to land here because like there were like some frustrations where what didn't seem like it was valid, like valuing my time, and like I felt like I was sent back quite a lot. But that was mostly more in the early game where they throw in an optional boss without having a save point right next to it. But then like later on, like I was able to kind of handle it and was like, okay, like it did kind of kill me. I didn't really have enough health, or I didn't find places to replenish that health. So that's where it kind of makes it kind of trickier to grade. Is it really the game like not being fair, or is it more just I'm not picking up on all the techniques and stuff that I should be to make the experience better? So, in terms of like actually rating it, I do think that the game is pretty fun and engaging. It has a great story, but I feel like there's are a few things that could be fixed with like an update, whether it's like the skill tree or just kind of the ledge grab mechanic, even because that was kind of interesting to sort through as well. But I don't think that completely hinders the game from being like unplayable. Like to please skip this. So I think like a sale kind of would make sense to like still kind of pick it up and check it out because it's still a great game here as long as you're willing to kind of deal through some of the curveballs it throws at you from time to time. But I also see it kind of worth that full price because it is, if you do like challenging games, and that be right up your alley to kind of go through and kind of have a great experience here to enjoy it fully. So I guess I would recommend it overall, but it just kind of depends on your skill level as a gamer and if you're ready to be ready to challenge yourself a little bit more thoroughly, depending on the price point that you'd want to pick it up at.
I agree. I think if you love 2D action games, Castlevania, Metroidvanias, stuff like that, and you enjoy a challenge, then if you want to, support physical, $30, it's worth it. If you're a digital gamer, $20, I think it's worth it. Um, if you got on sale, great. If you enjoy those kind of games, but you're a little intimidated by challenge, then I would wait for a sale. I think that it's one of those games where I feel it does punish you a little bit in the beginning, but by the end of it, you feel like you're a master. Like you're just tackling everything. You're gliding through the levels, and you feel good about it. And you learned how to be better. So it's one of those where they give you all the tools you need, and you do learn over time. And if so that's my recommendation. If you love the challenge, then it's a no brainer. And if you're intimidated, maybe wait for a sale. But again, this was came out on March 11th of 2025. PCube is the publisher, and once again, full disclosure, they did provide us review codes, so thank you again very much. If you enjoy game chat reviews like this, as well as other Nintendo content like our bi-weekly podcast, industry interviews, and so much more, please subscribe right below to our Nintendo Fuse YouTube page. Go to nintendofuse.com, join our Discord, follow us on social media, and hopefully you enjoy the rest of our content. Thank you, Greg, for joining me today. And everybody out there, have yourself a wonderful day.